Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Yeah, frustrating. Obviously you deal with injuries in football. It's part of the game. But, you never really know what's going to happen. Jacksonville, last 5 games of the season. Unfortunately, I felt like I was having one of the best seasons of my career, and I wanted to obviously help my team win games. So just not being there and being on the sideline was obviously disappointing. We've been rehabbing, been recovering, and feeling good. So looking forward to this upcoming season.
Eric Kendricks talking about how hard football is on your body. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to this season. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Phil Mackey. What's going on?
Judd.
Let me say this about him, though. So when it comes to Kendricks, for everyone who says, Daniil Hunter is just quiet, he's not going to talk, he just doesn't like you guys, or whatever. I recall Eric Kendricks a few years back being a terrible quote, like purposely wouldn't say a word, like didn't understand, like had clearly been told, hey, don't say much, and so he went over the top, and he was never hostile, but he wasn't enjoyable to talk to, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying what he just said there is like, oh my God, it's great. But you know what it is? It's an effort and it's a maturation that I appreciate. So like for all we rip guys who don't talk or who don't grow up, a guy like Kendricks is a great guy to look at because he didn't exactly cut open a vein there, which is absolutely fine. But you know what he gave you? A response.
I've always found it weird when athletes don't use the media to their advantage. Like sometimes athletes feel like they're being attacked by questions. It's like, no, you have a platform.
Yep.
You have visibility. You have a name. And regardless of what's being asked of you, you can spin it however you want. And the athletes that sort of figure out how to play that game. Actually, I heard a Michael Strahan interview a week or two ago, and he talked about this very thing, how at the beginning of his career, he was just like, get out of my face, don't talk to me. And then he realized, no, I'm going to control this. Yes. I'll talk about football on this day, and then if anyone asks me about football on other days, I'm just going to talk about whatever I want. And maybe I don't feel like talking about football on a Thursday, right? But correct. I'm going to portray myself to the fans and the public how I want, regardless of what the media wants to ask me.
And how smart is that?
Yeah.
Like, that's the move.
He's definitely found his voice in the last, 2 years.
Right.
And it's been a really good quote. Mm-hmm. A lot better.
And he's done it because outside influences from life, so not
Certainly.
people, but things that he thought were important, he decided, I'm going to talk about them. So here's the conundrum, especially, it's true of sports, but especially in football. The conundrum is this one. You know as well as I do, Phil, that these guys are brought up by football coaches saying, don't say a word. It's all about the team. Just don't say a word. Don't say a word. And a guy like Kendricks, for most of his life, was probably like, hell yeah, it's all about the team. And then he starts to look at the world around him, right? And he has interests and he cares about things. And he's like, wait, I've got this huge platform. And I can either talk about what I believe to be important that's on that platform, or I can talk about, we're just going to go out there and give 110%. And I really appreciate the fact that he sort of at some point in time, because you know what? I'm willing to bet, this might be a harsh thing to say, but I'm willing to bet the Vikings internally, coaching staff-wise, so not the PR, not the business side, but like the football side, I'm willing to bet they don't really enjoy that, right? Like they would probably like if Kendricks just said, hey, focus on football. Don't care about the world. Focus is on football. But he decided, screw it. My focus is on lots of things. And by the way, I'm really good at football, which helps. So I appreciate the fact that this guy was smart enough to basically say, I'm going to start to do it my way, which is essentially what you said, Strahan said. And I'm also not going to be a puppet for the people who say, just say you're out there trying real hard.
Yeah. Think about, well, first of all, I agree with everything you've said about the evolution of Eric Kendricks. He has just become this wonderful player, leader. I think he has whatever he wants to do when he's done with football, whether it's business or media. I think he'll have a number of different options. He's certainly active in the community. But think about how big of a waste it would be if in your 20s and early 30s, if you have this great platform and you don't use it to build a connection with fans and to be sort of the vocal leader of a locker room, if you're able to, right? If you're a good enough player to. So it's been really fun to see the way that he has evolved. It's a little apples to oranges because I think Eric Kendricks has a little bit of a brighter personality in terms of just like likability. But EJ Henderson was a little like that too. Like early in EJ's career, he wanted nothing to do with the media. He was super quiet. And then by the last 2 or 3 years, until the devastating broken leg in like 2009 or whatever year that was, he became he sort of realized, oh, okay, yeah, I've got a platform. I don't have to be worried about these schmucks, the Judds and the Phils. Like, who cares what they're asking me, right? Like, I can talk about whatever I want to. So it's been fun to see Eric Kendricks grow into that.
Bravo,
into that, role.
Bravo.
That's to me for asking great questions to EJ or to Eric?
To Kendricks. To Kendricks. I just appreciate guys that get it. And it doesn't mean he's got to be really nice. And it does not mean that he has to talk about what we ask him about. But you know what he does now? He gets it and responds to questions. And I was just watching poor Daniil do his Zoom a couple days ago. And, he so didn't want to be doing it. And that also, to be clear, does not make him a bad guy. But the point is, he just has no idea how to swing that towards him. Because it wouldn't have been that hard to subtly say some things where we would have said, oh, okay, cool. As opposed to, the coaches tell me not to talk about injuries. I mean, the coaches have talked about it. You can talk about it, dude.
Yeah, also screw the coaches, dude. You can talk about it's your body. You can talk about it.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
Easier for me to say screw the coaches. I'm not playing for them. So
you're not playing for Zim, who might just come in and start screaming at you while you're on the Zoom.
Hey, Mackey.
That is my worst nightmare. I quit football in 8th grade because they made us run too much and they yelled at us. I'm like, I'm playing baseball year round.
Yeah.
Screw this. I'm
Baseball,
not gonna run around the field 9 times with no water break because some fat kid can't beat the time. Not that I was in the best shape, but it was always like, all right, everyone's got to run around 2 fields within whatever the time limit was, and if any one of you doesn't meet the time, you all have to run again. And there
Why
was always
is
like
that?
3
Dumbest
fat
thing.
kids.
Dumbest thing.
Why is that?
I don't know.
What's the reason why some...
And then you make that kid feel terrible, too. It's like,
Well, and that kid-
by the way, if he didn't beat it the first time, he's not going to beat it the second time.
And that kid flat out shouldn't be playing sports. Go find your school paper and rip the team.
Exactly.
It's the best idea.
Well, this is your Friday episode of Mackey and Judd. We've got a rom-com rewind on the horizon, but we started doing this last week. We're going to bring you Feedback Friday, or really, so you guys are bringing it to us. Feedback Friday is all about scanning through the Score North YouTube comment section and people who are tweeting us various things. Could be questions, could be positive or negative feedback. We got a little bit of a mixed bag here this week, boys. So let's dive into it, courtesy of our friends at the 3M Open. So I know there's a big golf tournament happening right now. It's called the U.S. Open, and it's one of the big 4 majors, right? But the 3M Open, in terms of local Minnesota golf fans, that's sort of our I don't know, I guess pinnacle, if you will. All these top pros coming to town July 19th through the 25th at TPC Twin Cities, and tickets are available at 3mopen.com/tickets. Open to fans. It's going to be a blast. Again, July 19th through the 25th, TPC Twin Cities, 3mopen.com/tickets. All right, boys. Gimp6019 comments on the Score North YouTube page. Let's face the facts. Rocco has no clue about pitchers, and neither does the front office. They all need to be relieved of their duties. Matt H. says every single team in this town would fire everyone if their season went like this, including the Wolves. Rocco and the front office should be cleaned out after the season, not 100% committed to winning. 0-18 in the playoffs as an organization, enough said. So I guess just summarizing these two, do you think multiple heads should roll because of this Twins season?
Oh, my God. There's a lot to unpack from this, and it's early, so I'm a little bit tired, but I'll attempt.
It's early for you.
Yeah. All right. So, no, I don't think that you should. They made the playoffs twice. And while I've never bought in that when they went to play the Yankees in the playoffs in 19, I never bought that the team could dismiss the previous franchise's playoff losing streak because they're asked about it so much, and I think it starts to weigh on you. But do I directly blame these guys for all 18 playoff defeats? No, they made the playoffs twice. I guess in order of who I'm having second thoughts about, okay? Like, who am I? Like, I don't know about this guy now. Number one on my list, Rocco. I'm just having second thoughts. I don't know if... I think he's tipped his hand, possibly, boys, on crisis management, which in sports is incredibly important. And in 2019 and 2020 was difficult for everybody, but I don't know that there was an individual crisis for the team itself as far as like things falling apart.
Yeah, the common denominator was crisis.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything like too aggressive on top
Special
of that.
crisis, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't. So what he's done and how he's handled pitching at times, going back to the playoff games as well, he's the top guy that I think begins 2022, to be fair, if there is a season, on a very warm seat. Like, he's not gone, but I think his seat is going to get warm.
So you don't think you think there's no chance Rocco's
No
on the
chance
hot
he's
seat?
fired. No chance he's fired yet, unless he decides I'm done, which I don't think he will. As far as the front office goes, Falvey and Levine, I am giving them a reset year. I mean, they came in here and redid things pretty well. Now, that does not mean I'm not concerned about the fact that clearly they have not developed pitching like we expected them to. So are there red flags? Absolutely. But I think if we're talking about one guy having a warmer seat at the beginning of spring training 2022, it's Rocco. I do not think anybody is fired right now or after this debacle of a season.
Yeah, there's the will they be fired, and the answer is no. Across the board, the answer is no. I'll come back to that in a second. Should some be fired? I am really down on Rocco as a manager. And it's hard to know. I think the things that we can see and judge are only like 20 to 30% of being a manager, like pitching moves and bullpen strategy and lineups and all that stuff. Like, we can judge those with our eyes. Really, the main job of a manager is behind the scenes and creating an environment through everything that you do so that players can operate as close to their 100th percentile as possible. And through both of those avenues, I think he's fallen short, especially this year, obviously. I mean, all of the different pitching, and some of this is being driven by the front office, but when you are so afraid to leave pitchers in a third time through the order in certain situations, when you regularly turn to Alex Colomé and Matt Shoemaker well after they've proven that they can't handle certain situations, like, it just doesn't make sense. But the guy that I have soured on the most is probably Falvey. He's a smart guy. He's a thoughtful guy. I think he's a good leader in a lot of ways. But he's been here for 5 years now, and they hired him because of his leadership, but also because he was part of the Cleveland Indians pitching factory.
Yeah.
And I know that they would say, listen, COVID derailed some of the development. Maybe Duran and Balazovic would have been up. And that's probably true. Like, a lot of those guys, because they didn't pitch in the minor leagues last year, maybe they had their growth stunted by a full season. But when you look around the rest of Major League Baseball, why is Chicago? Why are the White Sox? Why is Dylan Cease dominating? Why is Michael Kopech? He's on the DL right now, but Michael Kopech is one of the best relievers in baseball. Like, these young dudes are coming up. Cleveland continues to bring up young arms throughout the last 5 years. There have been exactly zero Falvey and Levine homegrown starting pitchers that have come up through and been productive. Barrios was not drafted by this regime. He was drafted almost 10 years ago now by Terry Ryan and company. And I don't know that he's necessarily, like, Barrios has just been kind of the same number 2 starter that he's always been for the most part. So I don't know, man. Like, I think I'm frustrated because the Pohlad family is like the least curious ownership group in all of baseball. They just, they were going to give Terry Ryan a lifetime pass to be the general manager until he decided not to. It's like, well, that doesn't seem right. There should be some level of accountability, right? So if you're looking for an ownership group to just come in and just get rid of everyone and clean house, this is the last ownership group that's going to do that. So I think Judd's on to what they're going to do. They're going to just chalk it up as a reset year. Are you firing everyone, Declan?
I'm not firing anyone yet. I'm very sour on Rocco. I'm not ready to punt on Levine and Falvey. I think they're smart dudes, but they were supposed to bring pitching prospects here, and they haven't been able to do that. They also have still, as much as some of these savvy moves have worked out, Michael Pineda's been a nice signing. They're still really doing the old school Terry Ryan, hey, J.A. Happ, Homer Bailey, these guys that have something that they think they can tweak. Now, they have more information at their disposal for sure. They're not just throwing money at Ricky Nolasco's like Terry Ryan did in 2013 and then extending Phil Hughes for no reason. But there's still, I've yet to see like the outside of Josh Donaldson, which was a big signing, and they deserve a lot of credit for making that big signing. They've yet to really make that big impact pitching signing that fans have been wanting for a long time.
They also, one thing now that, because the team is so bad, is coming back to haunt them as well, is they have also, when they're presented with opportunity at the deadline,
Yes.
don't make moves to say we have an opportunity. I mean, the Sam Dyson year was the ultimate hubris of, well, in 2021, you know how good we're going to be? We can't trade these guys now. And I mean, you know, Phil, going back to when we started the show and you used to talk about the Cliff Lee opportunity and the fact that the Twins wouldn't trade at the time Aaron Hicks. How often does a team hold on to prospects when it's got an opportunity to win and say, yeah, we can't trade that prospect, and that guy turns out to be okay or worse than okay, and you passed up a chance? I mean, that Twins team passed up a chance.
Dude, I was at that Twins-Mariners game, the first game on Monday of that 3-game series, and somebody walked by in a Mariners Cliff Lee jersey, and it just brought me back. Brought me back 11 years ago. The
Cliff
Twins,
Lee I like Cliff Lee a lot, by the way.
dude, the Twins,
Good southpaw.
The Twins, in trying to beat the Yankees and get to the World Series, drew a line and said, man, we'll trade you almost anyone, but not Aaron Hicks for Cliff Lee. I mean, imagine that 11 years ago. Obviously, you would go back and say, yeah, please take Aaron Hicks. And would you like another Aaron Hicks for Cliff Lee?
Right.
And because of that, you went into Yankee Stadium with Brian Dunsing going up against, I think it was like, I don't know if it was Andy Pettit or somebody.
Yeah.
But what you just said, 2019, and I was just interacting with, I think it was loyal follower Sam Nord on Twitter yesterday. And he brought it back up. 2019, the Twins had the greatest home run hitting team in Major League history. And at the trade deadline, they made 2 moves, Sergio Romo and Sam Dyson. It's really inexcusable. And it was a first guess on our part, too. It's like, dude, what are you guys doing? Be more aggressive. Get a starting pitcher in here. Do something beyond like a 7th-inning reliever when you have the greatest home run hitting team of all time. So protecting for the future, I get it. You don't want to gut your whole organization. But look how many times the Twins have passed on chances the last 10 or 15 years to add a key piece that might cost you 3 of your top 10 prospects. You know, got to swallow hard. But if you want to win a World Series, that's what you have to do.
And on Dyson, you literally got ripped off. Like you made an inexcusable trade, and I don't know if it was a lack of due diligence on the Twins' part or what, but you got completely done. You got ripped off. And, you know, we can never forget the fact that in 2019, with a team that was damn good, you had to, I don't know why, but you had to start Randy Dominic at Yankee Stadium. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like, you're a playoff team. You've got an offense that is absolutely great, juice ball and all, I don't care. Dude. And one of your starters, now it was self-induced, but you felt the need, because I think Odo started Game 3 at Target Field, to start Randy Dominic. And again, first guess, we all said, this is a disaster.
Yeah, and it was.
And it was.
Tyler, let's see here. Cole Larson says, reasons why I watch Score North on YouTube. 1, great sports talk about how Minnesota sports can win a championship before we all die. And 2, Phil's transitions to sponsors. Yes.
Nice, man.
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, Cole. Well, you know what, Cole? That's a great assist, because I'd love to tell you, especially if you've got some business owners in your family, about Federated, okay? Because Federated's been around for over 100 years, based in Owatonna, and they are here to give you peace of mind, risk management tools and resources. And you can find out more, including a full list of industries Federated protects, at federatedinsurance.com. Federated, it's our business to protect yours. There you go, Cole. Tyler Kaiser. Tyler Kaiser says, Phil, you are not a crazed Timberwolves maniac. Anthony Edwards is the one I wanted them to draft because his athletic ability is insane. But also, unlike Andrew Wiggins, he has that dog in him, and when he smells blood, he wants to kill the opponent. Ant is legit and will be legit. So you guys looked at me very sideways when I told you. that Ant was a better version of some of these combo guards that we're seeing in the playoffs.
I don't know
right
if I
now.
look at
No, I felt like you were
definitely
jinxing
tilted
it,
your
though.
heads and
Yeah, but no, I
tilted
did because
your
I
head.
felt
Yeah, you're
like
right.
you were jinxing it. I mean, the Timberwolves' history is
Yes.
filled. It's filled with the cliffs that come out of nowhere, and we fall off of them. So it's not that Ant can't be great. I just feel like going down that path now takes us to a place where, oh my God, he just tore something or something. Hey, I got a question off of the playoffs because we've been drawing a comparison, and I'm wondering if our comparison is slightly off and if there's a better comparison for the Wolves. We talked about this a couple days ago, which in short, to summarize, was why can't the Wolves be the Suns, or could they be the Suns? And obviously the Suns went and got Chris Paul, who has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Should we be talking more about the Hawks? The Atlanta Hawks.
I would say
were,
Hawks or Jazz. Yes.
Okay,
Hawks or
because
Jazz.
the Hawks were when they fired their coach and went to Nate McMillan. The Atlanta Hawks, I think, were something like 12 games below 500. They were absolutely terrible. So, this was not a team that built up all year, and it's like now they're crescendoing. And I wonder if a team like the Hawks, yes, is the comparison for, and I'll say this very hesitantly, but why not the Wolves? Why can't they be like that? Because they certainly are getting the players who could lift you. I mean, Trae Young's a great player, fantastic. But the Wolves, it's not like they don't have good players now.
Yeah, the Wolves don't have the closest thing to Trae Young that the Wolves have is D'Lo, but they're like Trae Young is basically diet Steph Curry. He's like his ceiling is probably something less than. I mean, Steph Curry is one of the greatest offensive players of all time, but I think in terms of having a young star guard. And the Wolves have two of them in D'Lo, who's only 24, 25, and an Ant, who has the higher ceiling. And then some big men who can be like John Collins, guys that can get out, shoot, rebound. Cat sort of fills that role on a different level. Yeah, there's some pieces. And the Hawks, the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell's a really good player. He's not like a top 3 player. He's not a Kevin Durant, a LeBron James, a Steph Curry, where he's just Mount Rushmore of great players this era. Maybe at some point. You have to look at those teams like the Hawks and like the Jazz. How can you put all these pieces together and coach them up the right way, which it feels like Chris Finch is on that path, and get them to at least start taking steps in the postseason? That's what's going to be nice as a Hawks fan, as a Jazz fan. You're watching these teams come together, take some steps, probably going to fall short of winning a championship, but it gives you hope that they're like the NBA and the Suns are sort of bucking this trend, but the NBA is such a step-by-step league. You don't just pop up out of nowhere and win a championship. You put in the work, you fail to make the playoffs for a couple years, then you get there, then you get swept, then you go back, maybe get beat again, then you get to the second round. It's like every step is this methodical learning experience. And the Wolves just have to get in the door. They've got to get to the point where they can start learning, because it's one thing to finally get to the playoffs for the second time in 17 years or whatever it's going to be. That's been a hard enough rock to push up the hill.
Right.
But the harder rock to push up the hill is once you get there, becoming a team that can win a championship. And at least the Hawks and the Jazz and the Suns have expedited the whole thing because Chris Paul's amazing. At least they're on that. They're in the next level of the video game, so to speak. We need
Right.
the Wolves to get to that level of the video game so they can start taking those playoff lumps. Yeah. I think that's a wrap on Feedback Friday. We went pretty long with that Twins one, and I don't regret it at all. Anytime we can cut open a vein on this Twins team, they deserve it in 2021. So, you can always hit us up. Just leave us. We check the comments on the Score North YouTube page, and we're always on Twitter and Instagram too. So hit us up if you have something for Feedback Friday. Let us know, and we'll incorporate it into next